The night of the unknown, the alien jungle was quiet, but too quiet. Tall blue trees with shining leaves stood all around the small human camp. Strange, glowing bugs flew in the air, lighting up the darkness with a soft green light. It was late at night, and everyone in the camp was sleeping. Ethan, a human explorer, was lying on his simple bed inside a small tent. He was trying to sleep, but he could not stop thinking about the day. The alien planet was so different from Earth. Every sound, every smell, every shadow felt new, and sometimes scary. Ethan had learned not to trust the silence. Suddenly, a loud scream broke the quiet night. It was not a human scream. It was high and sharp, full of terror. Ethan jumped up, heart racing. He grabbed his flashlight and rushed outside. The cold air hit his face as he looked around. Other humans and a few aliens were coming out of their tents too, confused and scared. Then he saw Zara. She was an alien girl from the local tribe, with bright silver eyes and short purple hair. She was standing near the fire, shaking. Her whole body was trembling as she pointed towards the trees. "Something's out there," Zara cried in her alien accent. "I saw eyes red, huge eyes watching us." Ethan quickly moved to stand next to her. "Stay close, Zara," he whispered, trying to sound brave, though he felt just as scared. The other humans picked up their weapons, just in case. Suddenly, a giant shadow moved between the trees. The glowing bugs scattered. The whole camp went silent. Everyone froze, watching the darkness. The shadow grew bigger and closer. Now they could all see it, a monster, tall as a small house, with black fur and long, sharp claws. Its eyes glowed red like burning fire. The monster stepped into the light. Its teeth were long and shining. It growled a deep, rumbling sound that shook the ground. People wanted to run, but they couldn't move. Fear held everyone in place. Zara hid behind Ethan, clutching his arm tightly. "Don't move," she whispered. "It will see us." But the monster was already looking at them. Its red eyes locked onto Ethan's face. The air grew cold. Time seemed to stop. Ethan stared back, unable to look away. His heart beat so fast. It hurt. The monster opened its mouth to roar, but then something strange happened. It stopped. The monster looked deep into Ethan's eyes, and suddenly its angry face changed. It closed its mouth and took one big step back, away from the light, away from Ethan. The beast looked confused, afraid. Nobody could believe it. Monsters never stepped back from humans. They attacked, destroyed, and killed. But this monster, the biggest anyone had ever seen, was backing away from Ethan. A long moment passed. The camp was silent except for Zara's quiet sobs. She couldn't believe her eyes. It's scared of you?" she whispered, barely able to speak. Ethan didn't know what to say. He hadn't moved, hadn't said anything. He was just as shocked as everyone else. Why would a monster so strong and dangerous be afraid of a simple human like him? The monster kept looking at Ethan for another second. Then, with a low, sad sound, it turned and ran back into the jungle, making the trees shake as it disappeared into the night. For a few seconds, no one moved or spoke. Then people began to breathe again. Some humans cheered quietly, happy to be alive. Others just stared at Ethan, their eyes wide with confusion and new fear. Zara stepped in front of Ethan, still shaking. She stared at his face as if seeing him for the first time. "How did you do that?" she asked softly. "Monsters never step back, never. You must be special." Ethan shook his head, still in shock. "I didn't do anything, Zara, I promise." But Zara wasn't listening. She was already running to tell the others. In moments, everyone in the camp was talking about what happened. Some thought Ethan was dangerous. Some thought he was a hero. No one knew the truth. Ethan went back to his tent, but he could not sleep. He kept seeing those red eyes, remembering the way the monster looked at him, not with hate, but with something else. Was it respect? Was it fear? Or was there a deeper secret? Outside, the jungle was still quiet, but Ethan knew nothing would ever be the same again. And far away, deep in the shadows, the monster watched the camp. Its red eyes glowed softly, and it made a low, thoughtful sound. For the first time in its life, the monster was afraid, not of fire, not of weapons, but of a human. The night of the unknown had just begun. A monster's fear. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over the alien jungle, painting the sky with soft orange and pink colors. The camp was strangely quiet. No birds sang. Even the glowing bugs had disappeared, hiding in the trees. It felt as if the whole world was holding its breath after what happened last night. Ethan woke up early. He hadn't slept much. His mind kept replaying the moment the monster looked into his eyes and stepped back. He felt a chill every time he remembered the fear in that creature's eyes. It made no sense. He stepped out of his tent and found the other humans and aliens standing in small groups, whispering. They all stopped talking when they saw him. Some looked at him with respect, others with fear. Zara, the alien girl, was waiting near the cold fire pit, her arms wrapped around herself. When Ethan walked over, Zara turned to him. Her silver eyes were full of questions. "Did you sleep?" she asked quietly. Ethan shook his head. "No, did you?" Zara just laughed, but it was a nervous sound. "No one slept. Everyone is scared." He sat down beside her. "Zara, why did the monster step back? Have you ever seen that before?" She shook her head quickly. "Never. Monsters here are wild and angry. They never stop for anyone. Last night, it was like it saw something in you." Before Ethan could answer, an old alien named Tar, with green skin and many wrinkles, walked over. He was the tribe's storyteller. He looked Ethan up and down, then spoke in a deep, careful voice. "Long ago, legends said that some humans could talk to the wild. Maybe you have this power. Maybe the monster recognized you." Ethan frowned. "That's just a story, Tar." But Tar shook his head. "Sometimes stories come true." Just then, a shout echoed from the edge of the camp. A young alien boy was running, his eyes wide with terror. "The monster! I saw it again. It was watching from the trees." Everyone panicked, grabbing weapons and hiding behind tents. Ethan felt his heart beat faster, but something inside him told him to stay calm. He stood up, looking toward the dark jungle. The monster's shadow moved between the trees, its red eyes glowing in the early light. But again, it did not attack. Instead, the monster walked in a slow circle around the camp. It made no sound except for the crunch of leaves under its huge feet. It looked at Ethan, then looked away. The beast seemed nervous, maybe even lost. Zara whispered, "It's here for you." Ethan wanted to run, but he held his ground. He raised his hands, showing he had no weapons. "I'm not your enemy," he said softly, hoping the monster would understand his words or his voice. The monster stared at him, breathing heavily. Then, to everyone's shock, it bowed its head slightly and turned back into the trees, disappearing. Again, the camp was left silent, full of confusion and new whispers. For the rest of the day, the villagers avoided Ethan. Some thought he had angered the monster. Others believed he was their only hope. Zara stayed close to him, always watching. "The trees. You changed everything," she said, her voice both scared and excited. That evening, as the sun set and the jungle filled with shadows, Ethan and Zara sat by the dying fire. Zara asked him, "Do you think the monster will come back?" Ethan looked into the fire, thinking hard. "I don't know, but I feel like it's trying to tell me something. Maybe it wants help." Before they could say more, a new sound came from the jungle, different from the monster's roar. It was soft and sad, almost like a song. Ethan listened carefully. He felt a strange pull in his chest, a connection he could not explain. Suddenly, the firelight flickered. The monster's eyes appeared at the edge of the camp, not glowing with anger, but with a strange kind of sadness. It placed something on the ground, a shiny blue stone that glowed softly in the dark. Zara gasped. "That's a gift." Monsters never give gifts. Ethan picked up the stone. It was warm in his hand, and he felt a strange comfort holding it. The monster watched for a moment, then disappeared again into the night. Now, everyone in the camp knew things would never be the same. The monster was afraid, yes, but maybe it was also searching for something. Ethan stared at the glowing stone, knowing this was only the beginning of a much bigger mystery. Far away, deep in the jungle, the monster stopped and looked back at the camp. It touched its chest and made a quiet, thoughtful sound. For the first time in its life, the monster was not the hunter, it was the one seeking answers. The night of fear had become the day of questions, and the adventure was just starting. Testing the legend morning arrived quickly, but the memory of the monster's gift kept everyone awake. The blue stone glowed in Ethan's hand, pulsing softly like a living heart. Every time he touched it, he felt a strange warmth, almost as if something inside the stone was calling out to him. The villagers kept their distance from Ethan, whispering and pointing. Some believed he had magical powers now. Others were scared that he would bring more danger. Zara, however, refused to leave his side. She wanted answers, just like Ethan. Zara was stubborn. She tugged at Ethan's arm, her silver eyes bright with excitement. "Come with me," she said. "We need to find out why the monster gave you this stone." Ethan hesitated, but he trusted Zara. Together, they left the safety of the camp and entered the deep jungle. The air was thick and wet. Every step felt dangerous. The trees were tall, blocking the sunlight, and strange plants brushed against their legs. In the distance, birds with glowing wings called out, but Ethan kept thinking about the monster. They walked for hours, following the path where the monster had last disappeared. Suddenly, Zara stopped. She pointed to the ground. "Look." Huge claw marks were scratched deep into the soft mud. They were too fresh. Ethan's heart beat faster. "It's close," he whispered. They moved slowly, careful not to make any noise. Soon, they reached a clearing filled with old, twisted trees. In the center stood a strange stone altar, covered in glowing symbols. The air felt heavy, full of old secrets. Zara gasped, kneeling to read the alien symbols. "This is the altar of the chosen. My people believe it connects humans to the monsters. But it's just a story, isn't it?" Ethan ran his fingers over the symbols. They were warm, just like the blue stone. Suddenly, the jungle fell silent. No wind, no animals, nothing. Then, the ground trembled. The monster appeared from behind the altar, larger than ever, its red eyes watching Ethan closely. Ethan and Zara froze, fear gripping them. But the monster did not attack. It stepped closer to Ethan, sniffing the air. It seemed to wait for something. Ethan remembered the blue stone. He held it out, his hands shaking. The monster stared at the stone, then slowly, carefully touched it with its massive claw. The stone glowed brighter, and the symbols on the altar began to shine with the same blue light. Zara's recorder beeped. She was secretly recording everything. This was proof. But before she could say anything, Ethan felt a rush of images in his mind. He saw other humans long ago standing with monsters just like this one. They were not fighting, they were working together. There was a connection. Something ancient and powerful. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the jungle. A wild beast, not the monster, charged out of the trees, eyes mad with hunger. Zara screamed. Ethan's heart pounded as the wild beast lunged at them. But the monster moved faster than anyone could see. It leapt between Ethan, Zara, and the wild beast, roaring so loudly the ground shook. The wild beast stopped in its tracks, lowered its head, and slowly backed away, disappearing into the shadows. Ethan stared in shock. The monster had protected them, Zara looked up at Ethan, her face full of wonder. "You really are different," she whispered. "It trusts you. The legends are true." The monster turned to Ethan, its red eyes softer now. For the first time, Ethan saw that it wasn't just a wild animal. It was intelligent. It understood more than anyone guessed. Carefully, it reached out and pressed the blue stone into Ethan's hand again, as if saying, "This is yours." Ethan nodded slowly, feeling a bond form between him and the monster. He was no longer just a human lost on an alien planet. He was part of something bigger, something ancient and powerful. Zara wiped tears from her eyes. "We have to show everyone," she said. "They have to know the truth." Together, they made their way back through the jungle, the monster following at a safe distance. When they reached the camp, everyone stared in shock. Some backed away, afraid. Others stood frozen, unable to believe what they saw. Ethan held up the glowing stone for all to see. "The monsters are not our enemies," he said, voice steady. "They are protectors. We need to understand them, not fear them." Zara showed the recording to the elders, and soon the camp buzzed with excitement and fear. The legend of the Chosen was alive, and Ethan was at the center of it. But deep in the jungle, other eyes were watching. Not all monsters would be as friendly. A new challenge was waiting, and Ethan knew this was just the beginning. The alien. Warning, the sun was sinking behind the blue jungle, turning the sky red and gold. Back in the camp, news of Ethan's meeting with the monster had spread like wildfire. Every tent was alive with whispers. Some people wanted to see the blue stone. Others just wanted to stay far away from Ethan and Zara. Suddenly, a horn sounded. At the edge of the village, the oldest aliens, called the elders, were coming. They moved slowly, leaning on sticks carved with ancient runes. Their faces were serious and their eyes cold. The leader, Elder Sira, stepped forward. Her skin was silver and shone like metal in the last light of day. "Show us the stone," Elder Sira commanded. Ethan stood tall and held out the blue stone. It glowed softly, lighting up his hand and face. The elders gasped. Zara stood close beside Ethan, her eyes darting nervously between him and the elders. Elder Sira spoke in a heavy voice. "Long ago, our story spoke of a time when monsters and humans walked together. Only the Chosen, holding the Heartstone, could control the wild ones." She nodded to Ethan's blue stone. "That is a Heartstone. It chooses its human." Zara's mouth fell open. "But that's just a legend. We thought it was a story to scare children." The elders shook their heads. "No, child. There is truth in the oldest stories. With a Heartstone, a human can command the monsters. But the bond is not one of power, it is one of respect and trust." Suddenly, the ground shook. Growls echoed from the trees. A second, smaller monster, one with green eyes, appeared at the edge of the camp. People screamed and ran. Ethan stood frozen. The blue monster, his monster, stepped out of the shadows and blocked the green-eyed beast. They stared at each other. Then the green-eyed monster turned away and left without a fight. The elders watched closely. "You must be careful, Elder," Sira warned Ethan. "Other monsters will be drawn to the Heartstone. Some will want to follow you. Others will want to test you or destroy you. The Heartstone brings power, but it also brings danger." Ethan's heart pounded. He had never asked for this. "What should I do?" he asked quietly. Elder Sira's eyes were sad. "You must protect the Heartstone and use it only for good. If you try to control the monsters with anger or fear, they will turn against you. If you lead with kindness, you may change their world and ours." Zara squeezed Ethan's hand. "We'll help you. You're not alone." That night, Ethan and Zara could not sleep. They sat outside, the blue monster watching quietly from the edge of the camp. All around them, new monsters' eyes flashed. In the darkness, red, green, yellow, watching, waiting. Ethan turned to Zara. "Why do you think the Heartstone chose me?" "I'm not special," Zara shook her head. Maybe it saw something inside you, not power, but hope. My people have been scared of monsters for so long. Maybe it's time we tried something different. A sudden howl echoed through the trees. Ethan saw a group of young aliens sneaking toward the edge of the jungle, carrying torches and sharp sticks. They want to drive away the monsters, Zara whispered. Before Ethan could stop them, the young aliens threw stones at the blue monster. The creature roared, but did not fight back. Ethan ran between the monster and the angry aliens, holding up the glowing stone. "Stop!" he shouted. "It's not here to hurt us, trust me." One of the young aliens spat at Ethan's feet. "You trust monsters? They killed our families." Zara stepped forward. "The old days are over. Ethan is the chosen, and this monster saved our lives." For a moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, the young aliens lowered their weapons. The blue monster bowed its head and sat down, showing it meant no harm. The camp was quiet once again. Ethan felt the heavy weight of the heartstone in his hand. He knew everything had changed. The monsters were watching him. The villagers were watching him. Even the heartstone seemed to be waiting deep in the forest. A darker shadow moved. Something older and stronger than any monster Ethan had seen was waking up. The bond between human and beast was only just beginning, and as the stars rose above the jungle, Ethan promised himself he would use his new power to protect everyone, alien and monster alike. The warning from the elders echoed in his mind. Lead with respect. The heartstone tests the heart. The next challenge was closer than anyone guessed. Secrets of the Jungle. Ethan woke before sunrise, the blue stone still warm in his hand. The camp was quiet, but Ethan could feel the eyes of both aliens and monsters watching him. Last night's warning from the elders echoed in his head. The heartstone brought danger as well as hope. He looked at Zara, sleeping nearby, her face calm in the pale morning light. He couldn't wait any longer. Ethan had to find out what the heartstone truly meant, and why it chose him. Carefully, he placed the stone in his pocket and slipped away from camp, moving quietly between the blue trees. He didn't notice the blue monster, his silent protector, following close behind. The jungle was darker and colder than usual. Strange mist crawled along the ground. Ethan's footsteps made almost no sound on the thick moss. Birds and bugs watched from above, their glowing eyes blinking in the shadows. He felt both nervous and excited today. Maybe he would finally find answers. Ethan's path took him deep into the oldest part of the jungle, where the trees grew so thick that sunlight barely touched the ground. He noticed old carvings on the bark symbols that looked like the ones on the altar. Curious, he traced them with his fingers, feeling a spark from the heartstone in his pocket. Suddenly, a soft growl came from behind a fallen log. The blue monster emerged, sitting next to Ethan like a loyal friend. Ethan smiled nervously. "You want to know the secret too, huh?" The monster rumbled in agreement, its big red eyes shining with understanding. They moved together, deeper into the ancient woods. Soon, they reached a hidden cave, its entrance covered by heavy vines. Ethan hesitated, but pushed inside. The monster followed, ducking its huge head. Inside, the air was thick and cool. The walls were covered in glowing paintings, humans and monsters standing together, fighting dark shapes, sharing the same blue stones. Ethan stared in awe. He realized this cave held the true history of the planet. In the center, an old skeleton lay on a stone bed, clutching a faded heartstone. Ethan's own heartstone glowed brighter, pulsing in time with his heartbeat. He reached out and touched the wall. Instantly, memories rushed into his mind, not his own, but from long ago. He saw a human leader, brave and kind, standing beside monsters. Together, they fought against something even darker and stronger than any beast. The monsters weren't always enemies. They were protectors, partners, and friends. The heartstone was a symbol of their promise, to fight together, not against each other. Ethan fell back, gasping. The blue monster nudged him gently, as if asking if he was okay. "I think I understand now," Ethan whispered. "This isn't just about power, it's about trust and loyalty." Just then, Zara burst into the cave, out of breath and worried. "You left the camp." "I was so scared." She stopped, eyes wide, staring at the paintings and the old skeleton. "Ethan, is this proof? Is this the true legend?" Ethan nodded, showing her the glowing heartstone and the ancient cave drawings. "Our people and the monsters were always meant to work together," he said softly. "We were never enemies. We were partners." Zara walked to the wall and traced the painting of a human standing with a blue monster. "Maybe the old stories can change. Maybe we can show everyone a new way." Suddenly, the ground trembled. Outside, a loud, angry roar shook the cave. Another monster, huge, with yellow eyes and black scars, was crashing through the jungle. It was angry, wild, and didn't trust humans. Ethan grabbed Zara's hand, and the blue monster stood tall. In front of them, ready to protect, the yellow-eyed monster charged into the cave entrance, roaring at Ethan and Zara. The blue monster stood its ground, roaring back, its fur standing on end. The two monsters faced off, their growls shaking the stones. Ethan held the heartstone tight, trying to think. He remembered the old leader's memory. Trust is stronger than fear. Ethan stepped between the monsters, raising the heartstone high. "We're not your enemies," he shouted. "We want peace." For a long moment, the yellow-eyed monster stared at Ethan, then at the heartstone. Its angry growl softened, and it slowly lowered its head. The blue monster relaxed, moving closer to Ethan's side. Zara sighed in relief, hugging Ethan. "You did it. You stopped the fight." Ethan smiled, breathless but proud. He looked at the cave walls, then at his friends, human, alien, and monster. "We need to show everyone what we found," he said. "The real secret of the jungle is not about monsters and fear. It's about understanding, respect, and working together." As the three of them stepped out into the light, the jungle seemed a little less dark and a little more hopeful. But Ethan knew challenges still waited outside, and the world was about to change forever. The real threat word spread quickly in. The camp about the cave, the ancient paintings, and the peace between Ethan and the monsters. Some aliens were amazed and hopeful. Others whispered in fear, still unable to trust the creatures outside their fences. But something even more dangerous was now approaching the village, something no legend had prepared them for. Late that evening, a strange light filled the sky. Everyone in the camp ran out of their tents and looked up in awe and terror. A sleek, silver ship, bigger than anything the villagers had ever seen, was coming down through the clouds. Its engines roared, scaring the animals into the jungle. It landed hard on the edge of the forest, flattening trees in its path. Zara ran to Ethan, grabbing his arm. "That's not one of our ships," she said, voice shaking. "That's outsiders. Alien hunters." Ethan felt a cold fear in his stomach. He'd heard stories of dangerous aliens who hunted rare beasts for sport, selling their fur and teeth to the highest bidder. Monsters to them were trophies. He knew immediately the Heartstone's secret was at risk. A loudspeaker boomed. "Across the jungle, we have come for the wild monsters. Surrender or be destroyed." Their voices were cold, sharp, and full of greed. Within minutes, armored aliens in black suits spread out, carrying shock rifles and nets that sparkled with blue electricity. The villagers panicked. Some tried to hide, while others begged the elders for help. The monsters growled from the shadows, their eyes burning with anger and confusion. For the first time, both aliens and monsters were afraid of the same thing. Ethan turned to Zara and the blue monster. "We can't let them take the Heartstone. We can't let them hurt anyone human, alien, or monster." Zara nodded, her eyes fierce. "But what can we do?" They have weapons, and there are so many of them, Ethan thought quickly. We have something they don't. We have trust. The Heartstone can bring everyone together if we use it right. He and Zara ran to the center of the camp, calling for the villagers and the elders. With the blue monster at his side, Ethan stood before the frightened crowd. He lifted the Heartstone high so everyone could see its light. We have only one chance, he said loudly, voice steady. If monsters and villagers work together, we can protect our home. The Heartstone has shown us we're stronger together. A tense silence followed. Then slowly the elders nodded. Zara's tribe picked up sticks, stones, and tools, whatever they could find. The blue monster growled softly, calling other monsters from the jungle. Soon, dozens of glowing eyes appeared behind the trees, ready to stand beside Ethan. Suddenly, the hunters entered the village, guns raised. "Stand down," one shouted. "Give us the monsters and the stone." Ethan stepped forward, fearless. "We will never surrender," he said. "This planet is not for sale." The blue monster roared, and all the other monsters joined in. Their combined voices shook the earth, and the hunters stepped back, surprised and afraid. Ethan could feel the Heartstone grow even warmer in his hand. It pulsed, sending out waves of blue light across the ground. The hunters fired their weapons, sending nets flying. But the monsters dodged quickly, using the trees for cover. The villagers threw stones, distracting the hunters and protecting the monsters. Zara led a group of young aliens, using slings to knock the weapons out of the hunters' hands. The blue monster leaped in front of Ethan, shielding him from a blast of electricity. The Heartstone's light spread out, forming a shield around the camp. The hunters screamed in frustration as their weapons failed to break through. One hunter rushed toward Ethan, reaching for the Heartstone. But the yellow-eyed monster from the cave appeared, blocking the path and forcing the hunter to run away. The villagers and monsters cheered. Finally, seeing they were outnumbered and overpowered, the hunters fled to their ship. Their engines howled as they blasted off, vanishing into the sky. The jungle grew quiet again, but now it was filled with relief and hope. Zara hugged Ethan, tears in her eyes. "You did it. We all did it together." Ethan smiled, surrounded by friends of every kind. "This is only the beginning," he said softly. "We've shown what trust can do. Now maybe peace is possible." All around, monsters and villagers watched the stars and waited to see what new world they could build together. But far away, the Heartstone pulsed softly in Ethan's hand, reminding him, as long as there was trust, the real threat could always be beaten. The day monsters bowed the jungle was peaceful at last. The invaders were gone, and the only sounds now were the soft songs of glowing birds and the gentle whisper of leaves in the warm breeze. But the camp was different. Something new had been born of fragile hope, held together by trust and courage. Ethan stood in the center of the village, the blue Heartstone shining bright in his hand. Around him stood Zara, the blue monster, and a circle of both aliens and humans. But at the very edge of the clearing, just beyond the last torchlight, waited the monsters, big and small, their eyes reflecting the firelight like colored jewels. Elder Sira walked slowly to Ethan and lifted her old staff. "Tonight, we remember what was lost," she said, her voice strong despite her age. "But we also celebrate what we have found, a way forward, together." She turned to Ethan. "You have done what no one else has. You brought peace not with weapons, but with trust." Zara beamed with pride, her silver eyes shining. She squeezed Ethan's hand. "You changed everything," she whispered. "The old stories are alive again, but now they belong to us." Ethan looked around at the villagers. "I didn't do this alone," he said. "It happened because we stood together. The Heartstone chose me, but it is trust that unites us." Suddenly, a deep growl rumbled from the darkness. The blue monster stepped forward, followed by the yellow-eyed beast and even more monsters. The villagers tensed, but Ethan raised his hand, calm and unafraid. The blue monster lowered its head, and to everyone's shock, knelt before Ethan. The other monsters did the same, lowering themselves to the ground in a silent show of respect. The moment felt magical. The old and the young, humans and aliens alike, gasped in wonder. Even Elder Sira's eyes shone with tears. Zara turned to the crowd, her voice ringing clear. Let this be the start of a new story. We are not just survivors. We are friends. We are partners. The blue heartstone glowed even brighter, sending gentle waves of blue light through the crowd. For the first time in memory, humans, aliens, and monsters stood together, not as enemies, but as one people. Suddenly, a small alien child broke away from the crowd. She walked straight up to the blue monster and touched its fur, giggling when the creature snorted softly. The villagers gasped, but nothing bad happened. The monster carefully lowered its huge head to the child's level and let her hug its nose. Seeing this, more villagers, young and old, stepped forward. Some offered fruit or flowers. Others reached out, slowly and carefully, to touch the monster's fur or scales. Soon, laughter and voices filled the night. The fear was gone, replaced by a joy that no one had felt in a very long time. Elder Sira smiled, her voice proud. Let this night be remembered forever. The night monsters bowed not to fear, but to friendship. Later, under the stars, Ethan, Zara, and the blue monster sat on a small hill overlooking the village. The heartstone still glowed, but now its light was gentle, like a calm heartbeat. Zara looked at Ethan. What will you do now? She asked softly. Ethan smiled, looking at the peaceful camp below. I think we'll teach each other. We'll learn new ways to live monsters, aliens, and humans together. There are so many secrets in this world still waiting to be found. But this time, no one will have to face them alone. The blue monster nudged Ethan gently, its eyes full of quiet understanding. In that moment, Ethan realized that the heartstone was not just a gift. It was a responsibility, a promise to keep the peace, to remember the old stories, and to help everyone move forward together. Far in the jungle, the shadows watched and waited. The world would always be full of challenges. But for now, peace was possible. The legend of Ethan, the human who made monsters bow, would live on for generations. And as the night grew quiet and the stars blinked down, Ethan felt a deep sense of belonging. He was no longer a stranger in a strange land. He was a bridge, a new beginning. The day monsters bowed became the day hope returned.